Today, we're once again joined by Mike Collins. So get ready for Pantera, Revenge, using pain for fuel, and becoming everything your enemies are afraid you'll become. Please enjoy episode 4 of the Ministry of Freedom show. So we'll get going. Again, we're back for episode 4, and I want to remind everybody that it's every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m., all the platforms. You want to go over a few of the platforms again?
No, we'll make sure that we put them in the
show notes.
Yeah, when we get show notes.
Oh,
I'll go back and we'll get show notes caught
so the
up
usual
with the
places.
How can I hear this? Come on, Bruce.
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all those places. Get up on the mic, Mike. So again, we have Mike Collins with us, and in episode 3, we got to meet Mike and get him introduced and get his take on some interesting entrepreneurial perspectives and some goings on in the world. So if you haven't listened to episode 3, go back and check out Mike.
Yeah,
and bring you a little more up to speed.
Glad to be back. I've thought about, since the last episode, I thought about some of the things we did in discussion. I thought you guys would be talking about hookers and blow a lot more, and I don't even believe it came up. So
did you edit out the hookers and blow?
I might have.
I've said it. I've said it.
Oddly enough,
actually changed the episode from a 3-hour episode to just a 1-hour episode.
Understand. So when we were kicking around names, we landed on Ministry of Freedom, but don't think hookers and blow wasn't in the top 5. Thought it might be tough to get on the spiritual platform.
Right.
So they might frown on that.
Everybody needs saving, bud.
Yeah, but you're going to eventually have a show, so we could call it
possibly.
Yeah. Possibly hookers and blow. So let's move on.
Definitely in my top 5 right now.
You guys ready to get rolling? Yeah. I have a lot of personal things that I'm going to discuss, and for the audience's perspective, these guys don't know anything more than you guys know about what we're going to talk about. It's kind of some personal stuff, unpack some things about my year, and it's going to be something. So I hope you enjoy it, and hope you guys all get something from it. Revenge. I'm screaming revenge again. Wrong. I've been wrong for far too long. Been constantly so frustrated, I've moved mountains with less. When I channel my hate to productive, I don't find it hard to impress. Bones in traction. Hands break to hone raw energy. Bold and disastrous. My ears can't hear what you say to me. Hold your mouth for the war. Use it for what it's for. Speak the truth about me. Determined, possessed. I feel a conquering will down inside me. Strength, the strength of many to crush who might stop me. My strength is in number, and my soul lies in everyone. The releasing of anger can better any medicine under the sun. Determined, there's a time within everyone to close your eyes to what's real. No comprehension to fail. I vacuum the wind from my sail. Can't be like the rest and let others waste my time. Owning success is the bottom line. Like a knife into flesh, afterlife is to death. Pulling and punching the rest of duration. No one can piss on this determination.
Whoa.
And those are lyrics from Mouth for War by Pantera. Welcome to ministry. It's powerful.
Yeah. Bruce, inside of your head, did you hear revenge?
When did you pick up that's what the tune?
The very first sentence.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So people that know
I listened to that
too,
a lot.
Yeah, me too.
It was one of my favorites.
So I pound that into myself a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, but there's good stuff in there.
You listen to that still, today?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, like a workout
today.
Like really today?
Yeah.
So anytime I hear Pantera, I think of Todd's Mustang.
Yeah. Me too.
Just blared, not even moving, in the driveway at the Avenue G.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, I live out of state now, so when I come in town, I'll borrow vehicles, and I'll have you guys know that I actually am driving a bitchin' Camaro today.
Nice.
It's not orange or anything.
What year?
It's like a 14, I believe, 10 or 14.
Fancy boy.
Yeah, it's fast. It's actually got a good pickup.
Nice. Yeah, so we start with some Pantera. Now we're going to move into some scripture, some dichotomies in today's show.
Oh,
so
God.
the scripture references are all from the Voice translation. It's a real interesting translation that I've recently discovered. So those are Romans 12:19, Jeremiah 15:11, and Matthew 5:44. So we're all over the Bible, and we got 3 scriptures to review. So we'll start with Romans 12:19. Again, my loved ones, do not seek revenge. Instead, allow God's wrath to make sure justice is served. Turn it over to him. For the scriptures say, revenge is mine. I will settle all scores. Jeremiah 15:11 says, I will make you strong in these trying times to accomplish my good. I will make it so your enemies ask you to pray for them in times of disaster and suffering. Matthew 5:44. But I tell you this, love your enemies. Pray for those who torment you and persecute you. How can we take the wrongs and use it to fuel us without taking revenge and going against the instructions of Scripture? It's kind of the gist of the theme today. So there's a little bit of a revenge theme and a little bit of a fuel theme, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. It's our John Wick episode.
It's something. Yeah, so I, in some ways, feel my puppy was killed. So let's get better. It's important to take ownership of situations and circumstances in our lives rather than blaming others. That's a big thing with me. No matter what it is, I try not to be that's that person's fault. I try not to be that person. And that's called extreme ownership. So thanks, Jocko. Familiar with Jocko?
Yep.
Okay. So extreme ownership's a big deal. And I look at it like this. It's kind of like leaving your car unlocked. A thief comes and steals your stuff out of it overnight. Whose fault is it?
It's his.
It's your fault. It's the canned answer, but it's your fault. My mindset tells me it's my fault.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the thief didn't wrong me. And since bad things are part of life, I think there's a lot of wasted opportunity for growth if we aren't figuring out how to use those situations and the hurts to fuel us. It takes us to a place where I'm going to say some things today that folks are going to find pretty unhealthy.
Uh-oh.
They're not.
No. Well, I can tell you this your first analogy there. I mean, so basically, if I came up upon your house and I saw a guy stealing something out of your car and your doors were unlocked, I should actually jump out of my vehicle, run up and knock on your door and punch you in the mouth.
I think you should do that to the guy first, and then you and I should have a real conversation about responsibility and stewardship and how I'm handling my stuff. Yeah,
there you go.
I need some accountability if that's the case. If I'm opening the door for that guy to do that to me, I need somebody I care about to get me back in line, to check me on that and say, hey, but yeah, you need to take care of that guy.
Well, did you get him? No, I let him steal your stuff.
Yeah.
Car should have been locked.
Exactly. Right. So in 2023, I can tell you I feel I've been wronged by a lot of people. And I did an honest and pretty painful assessment of that, mostly this week. So I spent a lot of time sitting down at the laptop and with the scripture and sitting in my office, and I really did an honest reflection of those things. And what I found was I set all of it in motion. So as I'm looking at the ash heap, I go back in time and I can see myself there with the lighter. It's interesting.
Mm.
It's hard too, but I can tell you that it makes you understand you're not a freaking victim.
Right.
I also reflect back on all of it. The divorce, the getting a big check for selling my businesses, the moving out of my house, my new relationship. I got everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Pay attention to this line. sometimes a man gets exactly what he wishes for, and that can be the most perfect punishment of all.
Right.
Credit Netflix for that. There's a show called You on Netflix. The main character's name's Joe, and he's freaking out there. He kills folks, and
Okay.
and it's one of his lines. So, fellas, whose fault is it that I'm divorced and lost so much financially and otherwise in the process?
I understand you're wanting to accept responsibility.
Whose fault is it?
It's yours.
Is it though? Do you believe that, or is it just part of the talk?
No, I believe it. I believe that you have made decisions your whole life that get you to where you're going. I think we all choose our path, whether we know it at the time or not. We're choosing where we end up.
Thought?
Yeah. I mean, I always, there's a massive amount of shared blame. I'm really close to it. So there's a massive amount of shared blame because you said, I liked your analogy that you could see yourself with the lighter in your hand. You're the one that chose to get married at that point in time. And the motivations for getting married, came from a great place in your heart. But, you've even said, that maybe it wasn't the same motivations others may have chosen, reasons why they would have chosen to be married at the same time.
But the deep part of that is would you have been so successful had you not get married at that time? I mean, had things not went the way they did. So I always say this about myself, and you guys maybe heard me say it before. At the time of some of the worst days of my life, of what I believed at the time to be the worst days of my life, they were actually the opening to the greatest time of my life. Whether it was when I got fired from Vickers Hydraulic, I worked there for 5 years, and guys in the 80s were making $25 an hour, and people were like, "Wow, how did you lose that good union job?" And when I got divorced, that's another time. Like those times at the time, I was tore up.
Yeah.
But in the past, it wouldn't change a thing.
Interesting. So the distance you have from a time perspective gives you a different outlook on it than maybe you'd have had. What's difficult is the day after you're done at Vickers celebrating, like, you can't believe what this is going to unlock for me. It's hard to be strong enough to do that. You're
giving up a piece of your life as you've lived it. And my point for 5 years, how long were you married? I mean, how long?
19.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, for 19 years, that's been your life. So, yeah, that's big, man. Walking away from that's big.
And one of the things that I'm going to be serious about as we go along with the show is the audience isn't going to hear me disparage my ex-wife.
No.
I'm not that man. I'm not doing that. And she's not here to defend herself.
Right.
It'd be a good show. I don't know if we could talk her into it.
Next week, Jim's ex-wife.
I don't know that we could talk her out of it.
She's a smart lady, and she might have a good time doing that. And I can find her. I live 4 blocks from her. 4 minutes from her. Not 4 blocks, but it is 4 minutes. I've timed it when I moved out. So regarding my divorce, in terms of extreme ownership, and I will say this, and this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. I honestly know in my heart and believe I was not the one whose behavior ended up leading to the end of this marriage.
No.
I know that. It was not my behavior.
Right.
Stuff she did got us here. But as I reflect on it, I own the fact that my failures and shortcomings as a man, as a husband, led her to those behaviors. And you have to be able to take ownership of that. It's all her fault. She did this and that. Well, why did she do that?
Right.
You have to be able to take ownership of that stuff. And I think it's important, and I'm trying to. So whose fault is it? And I do think it's mine. Extreme ownership can't be a sometimes type thing. It's like cafeteria Christians. Let me have a little bit of that salvation stuff. Keep that other stuff though, and give me some of that. And I don't want any of that tithing. Give me
a little of the green, some of the blue,
a little bit of the yellow. It's not cafeteria stuff. So
I'm going to need to go to confession tomorrow for what I'm about to do.
For clarity, confession isn't really part of my spiritual life as a Christian man. That's a little more.
Confession can be to a friend or to yourself. It can even be
later.
to you and the Lord in a room by yourself, buddy. You can confess.
I'm more of a repentance guy than a confession guy.
Okay. All right.
So the divorce leads me to the next thing that I want to discuss. So this is the part, as I was typing this out, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to benefit anybody or not, but I kept it. I want to have this as part of the talk because I think it might help somebody that listens to this stuff that's going through loss or that has. And I also understand that this isn't going to resonate with some folks. And especially, I know Mike is going to think, man, that's just, you're just batshit on this, dude. Sorry.
I'm
pardon
old
the
and
French.
soft now. I'm telling you, man, it isn't the same. We'll see.
So
I'll give you the after.
So, and you guys kind of know what this is. The audience won't know this stuff, but I'm going to unpack this. And so because of the divorce, so this year I lost who I considered my best friend. So I lived in a place of I lived in a lot of loneliness, even being married. So my best friend, so she's not dead, not even a person. So she's a female cat with a boy's name. So her name is Ponch, and she's with my ex, and I miss her terribly. So this past summer, I had her portrait tattooed on my right thigh. Have you ever seen it? Have I shown you that yet?
Yeah. I thought you were going to be talking about other stuff. I'm with you. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You're an idiot.
no, there's right. And I respect that. But bear with me in the talk here because it's going to take you somewhere.
Yet.
No, I recognize that seems very soft. That was a huge part of loss for me. Because I love this cat. So I had her portrait tattooed on my right thigh. So I went out in the summer and had this tattoo artist that I like in Vegas, Arnaldo, tattoo this on my leg.
That's how he pronounces it, or you?
That's how he pronounces it. It's funny too because he's an Eastern European guy and he's like the biggest patriot in the world too. I mean, his Instagram's amazing.
He came to America because he loves America.
Exactly right. This guy loves America. So it's as you sit down with him for 7 hours, you get to talking about a lot of interesting stuff. Funny quick sidebar. This is really not that relevant, but the power went off in the whole building where I was getting my tattoo done, like mid grind. Oh, black, pitch dark. You can't see a foot in front of you. So I'm like, this dude, I kid you not, gets in his kit. He's got the big toolbox, with all of his stuff. Pulls out the thing.
Like a miner helmet?
Lot. I have a picture with the light, like a miner's thing.
Like a miner helmet.
I have a picture of it on my phone. And he's like, he's got an accent. I can't even mimic it. He's like, you cool with this? And I go, yeah, man. Let's go. Yeah. So yeah, it was crazy. So
that means it happens more.
Yeah, he's
so
ready
often.
for it.
Yeah.
Right? But he's prepared. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Got this can line.
Yeah.
You cool with this?
You good? Yeah.
So, but the tattoo, it's on my Instagram. So my Instagram is @RealJimMotes, and it's that way with the word real because years and years ago when I got an Instagram, somebody had my name. So I put the word real in front of it and thought that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so I've kept it, and I don't do a lot on Instagram, trying to do a little more because of the show, but the pixtures are on there, and he did a great job because there's the portrait that I took and the final product, and he's an amazing dude.
I'm looking up @Jim Motes right after this. I gotta see this imitator.
Exactly. So I told my mom, she's asked about Instagram the other night. I told her, here, go to this and go find me. She goes, oh, I just love that. When were you in the mountains? I said, okay, that's not me. I told you what the handle is. So I'm not in the mountains.
You're so much more handsome now, Jim.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. So I tell, with the tattoo thing, people are like, that's, it's kind of interesting. Everyone has an opinion about why this guy get a big cat portrait on his leg and, whatever. And so, I would tell people, I'd be like, it's, so she's kind of always with me and I have her and I think I told you that. And that's a total lie. As I was having it done, I knew that was a lie. I knew I was going to tell people that and I knew it was a lie. And so here's the real reason. I wanted to see her constantly. And she's a reminder down there that it's literally carved into my body. And it's representative of everything that was taken from me. And I was having that done. That was a thought that I had as I was getting grinded on for those hours. That I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at her all the time. And it's going to remind me every single second of what was taken from me.
Yeah.
It constantly stokes the fire in me to get better and to win, to stay on the path, to stay disciplined, to stay sober, to train, do another mile, do another lap, another 15 minutes in the sauna, to read, study for another half an hour when I want to go to sleep. The people who've taken from me this year are going to have to be so obsessed with personal excellence that their existence is going to be unmanageable to them. They won't be able to do it. They're not going to beat me in the game of life. And it's just not going to happen. And I will tell you, very few of us are willing to go to that place, to get dark, to operate in that kind of loneliness, to seek pain, to microdose adversity. Thanks to my friend Greg Anderson from Endless Endeavor podcast for that line. We're not really friends yet.
No. Once you're big, he'll reach out.
But I am that guy. I am willing to do that stuff, and I'm going to come for everything that was taken from me. And I hope that the audience, I hope you too, and I hope the audience does the same. I hope they're willing to figure out what's been taken from them. Because it's time that we should all be, it's a season where we need to be obsessed with getting better. I feel that that's crucial. Now, it's also not wallowing in self-destruction in some pity party, because I think I wallowed in that a little bit, and I think that's a little bit natural. I am pretty freaking far from that today.
Yep.
You're not going to spend any time with me and think that guy's kind of in a pity party. Mm-hmm. No, I'm just not there. But I will. A message for the audience is if you find yourself in a deep hole and feeling alone, you got to stop digging.
Right.
Put the freaking shovel down.
Yeah.
Because there's lonely people. And I didn't realize how lonely I was until I kind of wasn't lonely as much. It's kind of, my dad always told me an interesting story about his dad, my grandpa. He would tell me, say, Jimmy, I never knew your grandpa drank until I was 17 and saw him sober. So you don't know what you're living in until you see the different. So there's people out there that are feeling stuff they might not even understand, and it could be loneliness. Can't be lonely. I got 2 kids in the house, and I'm married, and I've got a dog, and you can be lonely.
Right. And the thing is what I mentioned about myself, from these horrible days turning into the best days, it's the same thing that you're doing right here. I mean, the reason that those horrible days aren't still the worst horrible days for me is because I quit digging.
Yeah.
As you're saying, but I went on. I moved past it. I didn't dwell on it. I didn't live in that misery. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll live in that misery. And you've chosen to pick a new path, to rotate, to turn, to pivot was a word you used one day to me.
Yeah.
And you're moving forward. You pivoted.
Yeah. So it's important. I just want to encourage people to stop beating themselves up. Do the next right thing. Do the next freaking thing. Just do something productive. And you start piling that stuff on even when you don't feel like it, man, it helps. I think it's important that we help each other be versions of ourselves no one has seen. So we talk, well, let's just be better and let's be that. Let's really be versions of ourselves no one has seen, because that's going to look different. So if we're 16 or 60 years old, if we're fat or fit, wealthy or broke, it doesn't matter. I think it's our time. And I don't think you need to be somebody coming out of crisis in order to have it be your time. So I can hear it now. I can hear it from you guys a little bit. But Jim, it's so unhealthy to think like that. They're just taking up space in your head, rent free. Got to let that stuff go. You can. Nope. Not letting it go. And I do know that this isn't the show for you guys. If your primary goal is to be so well adjusted, you fit in with the masses of mediocre people that are trudging through life. This show ain't going to be for you.
No.
We're about optimization and using all means necessary to be better tomorrow than today, to become obsessed. And obsessed is a word that the normal used to describe the committed. So we're not normal here. Fair?
Yep.
Right.
Are we obsessed? Are you obsessed? Are you obsessed with stuff?
Yeah, I get obsessed with stuff.
Are you
It
interested in staying
rotates.
obsessed with stuff, or is it too much?
No, I take breaks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I change my focus.
Yeah.
I need to be more hyper focused on things like you are right now, like the things you're mentioning. I definitely have become obsessed with working out, and then all of a sudden work takes over. I'm not very good at multitasking my obsession. All of a sudden it's like
Yeah.
I'm focused on I got to get this job
Yeah.
done. I got to get these people. I got to do
Yeah.
this, and then all of a sudden fitness maybe just falls off to the side, and it's unfortunate.
For me,
Tomorrow will be better.
have one obsession and understand that the other things that are important to you will fall in line behind that. And as you raise the watermark on personal excellence, even if you're not giving as much attention to those things, they're going to raise because the overall watermark is raised.
Right.
So your business will be better even without hyper focus because it's in the water and everything's being raised.
I 100%
Because
agree
personal
with
excellence,
that. I agree with that.
if we're focused, hyper focused, and that's a great term. I like obsessed because it just seems more dysfunctional.
Yep.
So obsessed, if we're obsessed with personal excellence, and I was talking, it's only going to the gym. No, it's part of it. Personal excellence in all areas. If we're obsessed with personal excellence, everything's going to fall in line. But I will say this, to reflect back on those scriptures, per the scriptures, I won't take revenge. I'm not a revenge guy. And the scripture tells me not to, right? Not about taking revenge. And I'm going to stand on God's promise that he's going to make me strong. But if we take a closer look at that scripture, we're strong for his good. God wants to give us the strength to do his stuff. And we can be obsessed with personal excellence and go about God's will if that's important to us. I also commit to praying for those who have wronged me. I do it every day. And I do it honestly. I pray for my ex-wife every morning. And I'm honest with God about those feelings in my devotional time, because it's difficult some mornings. I don't just sit down and say, "Morning, God, thank you for this day, and please bless her, and I hope her day's awesome, and I got no ill," because I'm not going to lie to God, because you can't. Right. What I'm going to say is, I'm struggling with some feelings, and I do have a little animosity about how some things went, and I do want you to bless her life, and I want you to bring her closer to you through this process. And I can say that with sincerity because I've been sincere in all of my feelings with God about her and about my former partners, and continuing to pray for those people when you don't feel like it is important. And we're also, the scriptures tell us to. It says, why do you do that? Because it says to pray for your enemies. And I don't consider her an enemy. I'm just using the word, and she's my enemy. She's not my enemy. But I am going to pray for those that were in the category of maybe wronged me slightly or caused me some pain or took from me. We can be fueled and faithful at the same time. A lot of Christian people miss that. You can't be that driven because you're not supposed to have drive. Just hand it to God and sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, wait on the couch.
So I remember a story from the Bible. I'm no scholar, so I don't remember exactly where it was, but I remember all these cats were in a boat. And the one that wasn't doing the stuff and he was just chilling out was Jesus, and they were supposed to be manning the boat, and they needed to be obsessed with keeping that boat afloat. And then they start freaking out and panicking and saying, "Jesus, help us, Jesus, help us." And he's like, "What's the problem? You got this. Be obsessed with keeping the boat where it needs to go. I'm going to be back here catching some Z's, and if you had enough faith and you'd put some works behind it, you'd be fine." Now that's not exact verbatim Bible,
Right.
No.
but it's the gist of that scripture.
Right.
He says, "Oh, you of little faith, what are you doing?" So faith and works is important, and I'm going to be fueled and faithful at the same time. So oftentimes I like to have calls to action in the show. And it's not homework and telling the audience, you got to go do this or you're a failure. A lot of times the calls to action are for me and some things I'm going to do. And if maybe somebody hears it, it might resonate with them. They might want to do some of this and it might be a productive exercise. So here's my calls to action that I'm going to commit to for the week. So, and I've already done a little bit of this. Write down the name of that person and at least one thing they stole from you. Take ownership of the situation. Remember, you unlocked it and they took it. So don't seek revenge. Pray for them every day as Matthew 5:44 directs us, and turn the situation and the person over to God. But here's the rub. Don't waste that pain. I was at a men's breakfast a couple months ago, and a lot of these guys didn't know kind of what I've been going through and the divorce and stuff because I only see them every 3-4 months or whatever. And so everyone's going around the table. There's about half a dozen of us, and they're, it's kind of catching up. Hey, what's going on with you, Bob? Oh, I've been doing this and my kids in college and whatever. And they get around to me. And so I'm like, well, buckle up. And they're like, yeah, because some of the stuff, maybe I'm living in some ways it might not line up exactly with how they think I would be living. And I'm really honest about it with them. And then they said, we went around and said, what are you guys praying for? Are there certain prayers in your life? And I said, I'll answer that. That's interesting because I'm praying that God doesn't waste this pain. Because they thought, well, you're certainly praying that he takes that pain away and that you have peace. And I said, no, I don't pray that ever. I love the faces because I love these guys. These are solid freaking dudes, right? Yeah, but they're like, I don't pray that God takes away my pain. But I do pray he doesn't waste it. And I pray that every day. I'm not some kind of masochist, but we're going to experience pain. Mm-hmm. And I think the people that are going to sign the checks, for lack of a better way to put it, the people that are going to influence and impact lives and change lives and lead are going to be the people that can take that pain and use it effectively instead of wishing it away.
Yeah.
So I want to use it for fuel, for motivation. And I also want to use the hurt along with the power that I believe comes from being filled with the Holy Spirit to go places and accomplish things that I never would or could. And that's what I want to encourage everyone else listening to this to do. So that's action step 1. The next one is to commit for the next week to do one thing each day that's a representation of you using the wrongs in life, the setbacks, the pain, the anger and stuff in a positive way. So every day do one thing that's a representative of you taking that pain and channeling it into something that's going to make you better. So what might that look like? Well, since we're taking back ground that was stolen, it's important that we do things that are somewhat going to be in the physical as well. So what if we use that to lift more? Maybe another set. What if we go for a walk even when it's cold? Read more, say no to the donut, have a glass of water at the bar instead of that next beer, go to bed earlier, wake up when it's dark. Something real special about sweating when people are sleeping. Become everything that your thief is deathly afraid you'll become. That's kind of what it's about. So next week, I'm going to chat about how to move forward into happiness after this, because that's kind of the next step. So we're recognizing it, we're owning it, we're walking in it, we're not praying it away. We want God to use the pain. We want to be filled with the Holy Spirit. We want to take these things and channel them positively into things that are going to make us better. Then we want to chat about moving forward into happiness, which I'm pretty blessed to say I'm finding. And it feels pretty good. How do we use the pain and anger as fuel while we're on the guard and we're guarding our hearts and minds against the poison of resentment? Because that's the tough one. Because when you're full of that resentment, there's just no room for anything else. So how can we operate with what I've talked about without having to be so overflowed with or full with resentment that there's no room for the good things? So we're going to unpack that next week, and that's hopefully a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Okay, thoughts?
Man, everything you're talking about brings this back to it's always about doing the work, right? Everything is.
It is.
It really is. Everything about success, whether it's working out, whether that's another set, the other walk in the rain, the other going another mile, getting over your divorce, moving forward, being successful again after you lost your great job and all this wealth that you had built. And like I say, I tell people, I mentioned to you recently about you have to do the work. And people that don't know you, obviously, so I always tell people, like my friend Jim, I used to always be able to find him. All I do is go drive by his work. The day before Thanksgiving, you know where Jim was? At work. The day after Christmas, Jim was at work. And you're that type of person. You put in the work.
Yeah.
And now you found a new way. Now, obviously, your whole life got turned. So, you know what you could have done? You could have crawled up in a ball, done nothing. And everybody would be like, man, he had the world by the tail. He was married. He had this great job. And all of a sudden, his partners kicked him out. His wife left him. Look, you got a great excuse now. You've got a great excuse to lay down and never do another damn thing. Mm-hmm. Just wallow in your pity. Mm-hmm. But you're at work.
Yep.
That's what you're doing right now. You're back at work, just like Jim has always been at work. Yeah. And just like I mentioned earlier with me, my worst days of my life are now in hindsight some of the best days of my life.
Yeah. Not
because I'm lucky. Because I went and did the work afterward. It's like, I'm gonna take this bad thing and turn it into something great. And that's what people have to do. That's what the people that are going to shine and the people that hopefully are listening to your podcast, Jim, that are hearing things from you. They're those type of people that are like, maybe they're not doing the work yet, but they want to. They aspire to. You know, like we talked last week about they're going to start Monday. Yeah. But maybe they really will. Maybe they'll hear from you and they'll be like, look, he could have stopped. He could have laid down. He could have had a pity party, but he didn't. And now here he is. He's starting his podcast. He's changing his life. He's met a new girl. He's moved on. You had a marriage of almost 20 years. Like I say, man, you obviously, I'm glad to call you a friend. I'm glad you're not that person that just decided that I'm not having me and Bruce aren't having to, man, we should go see Jim. He's really,
have you checked in on him yet lately?
Yeah, man, he's 2023 really messed up Jim. I mean,
because it really boils down. It's just about us.
Right.
Yes.
Your turn, Bruce. I talked to that loser last week.
Thus, the loneliness.
Your time to go visit Mr. Pity Party.
These are my friends.
That makes me think of something, though. And I've got an honest question to ask you. I've never asked you this. Yeah. I'm wondering, when all this went down, it really came to a head in May, let's say. We'll just...
professionally?
All of the above, everything, May and June was, everything just kind of swirled. And the advice that you were getting from all your friends, including me, was you got your check, take 3 months off and enjoy it. And in hindsight, that drove you literally insane to try to take 3 months off of work. But it was also, from the outside, it helped you process through all of the stuff that you needed to process.
Nope, it was awful. Off time is for losers in the week. And what I found myself doing was I hated it. Because you know why? I thought, is this what weak people do? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
So,
I'm
up at 5 a.m. and okay, so I'm going to get up early to be off.
Yeah. I feel you. I went to Mexico on a trip one time for a week, and we're down there. And by the 4th or 5th day, I went out and started looking at real estate vehicles for sale. Like, I'm ready to start. I'm like, I'm bored, right? 3 days of vacation. We've laid on the beach and we went and saw the ruins and we did this stuff. And now it's like, I'm ready to get back to work. Yeah. Like, I would like to buy a property here. Can I flip a property in Mexico? Can I, I'm checking into the laws and what can I do? Can I fix up a condo? That's how it worked for me too. I started 3 businesses in January because my main business was moving dirt, and living in Omaha, Nebraska at that time, come December, the ground's frozen. There's not a lot of dirt to be moving. So guess what? One year I opened a restaurant. One year I started a CrossFit gym. This all happens in January. I've been 2 or 3 months. If I can't take it anymore, I'll just go open a business.
Yeah. I remember that I didn't take a week's vacation for the first 12 or 13 years I was in the car business.
That's crazy.
And the only reason I took 5 days off was because my dad died. Now, the only reason I took 5 days off when my dad died isn't because I couldn't work through the grief. It's because he decided to live and die and be buried in El Paso, Texas. And I had to leave the area and go down there, and I couldn't do that in a day.
Right.
And I don't know any other way to do life. And I wanted to punch so many people this summer that said,
I'm glad you didn't.
Are you retired?
Oh, yeah.
And so first off, I didn't realize until watching these episodes back that I actually physically look like somebody that could be retired. So that pissed me off, because how I feel and having somebody walk up and ask me if I'm going to retire, that's never been a goal of mine, and still isn't.
Right.
To do what?
Yeah.
This is
We're all young inside, right? We're a bunch of dummies. We're 50 somethings that think we're 20 in our head. And I had a lady say to me last week, she's 60, and she's asked me how old I was. And she said, and I quote, "Oh, you're younger than me." And I'm looking at this old lady like, I mean, to me, she's a grandma. So I have 8 grandkids, but I still use the term like, out of the way, grandpa.
Yeah.
Because in my head, even though I physically know I have grandchildren, I'm not. I mean, I don't think you guys look old, but I'm telling you, some of these 50-year-olds.
Wait till you watch the episode.
Well, that's why I don't actually look in the mirrors. I know that, believe me, the thoughts are going in my head, and then I look in the mirror and I'm like, you better calm down, old man. You are not going to drag that guy out of that truck. And
who put my dad in the mirror?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting stuff. But no, the slowing down, the summer was difficult. But you know what I ended up doing was I enjoyed laying around. I got a lot of sun, went on a couple of vacations. So I did my best to enjoy the summer. Bruce and I went on walks pretty much every morning. But I will say that,
which started this entire thing.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed is my life is very empty without progress. So accomplishments to me don't mean much. Finishing the race doesn't feel as great as I once thought. And what feels good in hindsight is the training.
Yeah.
So I am a journey guy, and as long as I'm seeing progress, I'm real happy. So we talk about this is the worst we're ever going to be at doing this show. I think that's going to be a theme of everything in life. This should be the worst. Today's the worst we should be at it, because we're on a trajectory of constant improvement. Progress is where it's at. And I think we're making progress. Mm-hmm. And you know how I know we're making progress is we're sitting here doing a show.
Right.
And the seeds of that were several months ago of what would it look like? What equipment do you need? How do you do it? And Bruce is super humble about this and hates when I say stuff like this. This guy figured it all out.
Right.
Built the studio. Everything. He figured it all out.
This is amazing.
What equipment do we need? Look at all, and the audience can't see all
crazy.
this, but the wiring that goes into this and the that, and the cameras and the lighting, the blue lights here and there, and we walk in here and show up with a few pieces of paper and get to talk, and it doesn't just happen. Right. And that's kind of the theme about a lot of businesses. I used to say that a lot too. I used to tell salespeople all the time, like, hey, this just doesn't happen.
Right.
And I used to say, because it would appear that sometimes when you get towards the top of the food chain, you aren't doing as much. And I would say to folks, this didn't just happen.
Right.
And the infrastructure and everything is built for you to be able to perform here doesn't just happen and takes a lot of hard work. And I used to say, I am a lot like the fire department. It might not look like I'm doing much, but I am here when you need me.
Yeah.
And people need to remember that about those at the top.
Right.
And I can tell you, Bruce is all about it. It's all about doing it all.
Yeah.
And he's a freaking rock star. So that's good stuff.
I started to even blush a little bit there.
Yeah.
It's hard to see through that white.
Well, it's when you talk, it's obsession.
Yeah.
It's all it is.
Yeah. Good. Good for you.
And we enjoy our obsessions. We more than enjoy our obsessions.
I think it's important to stop as men to stop fighting against some things that are in our nature as men because society tells us to. Okay? We should want to be obsessed with stuff. We should want to conquer. We should want to hunt, and we should want to, I don't know how to say it, be with women and have those drives, and we should channel them the right way. But when every time we should want to have physicality. Every time that you feel that stuff, if you're feeling the pressure to, you shouldn't feel that, and you should be ashamed of that and feel guilty about it. I'm all done with all that. I ain't feeling guilty about it. One of my frustrations is I've got a lot of really quality Christian dudes in my life, and they're very well-meaning, and they might even come from a place of truth. But a lot of the overall theme of the messaging that I get from these guys is I'm going to talk about something in training, or hey, I built this gym at my new house and I'm doing this, this, and this. And instead of, F yeah, man, get at that, get stronger, get better, you go for it, be obsessed with that. I love that you're doing this show and you're doing it, go for it. That's what I want to hear from men, because that helps me come alive, because that's the message I want to give to the audience is do it, right? The message I get from a lot of these dudes is, you need to be careful, Jim. Oh, really? About what? Well, that can become an idol in your life, and it can take the place. Okay, I'm not having that conversation. Okay, yeah, I'm obsessed, and well, you know what, Jim, you're in a serious relationship with a woman that's significantly younger than you, and you need to be careful. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Did you say nice?
High five.
What are we talking about? I think what you meant was
touchdown.
Yeah, she's freaking amazing and good on you. And how'd you pull that off? Thank you. I'll teach you. But the point I'm making is
much more wily than I suspected, Jim.
let's be men that are lifting up other men to be men. Let's say, yeah, go for it, man. I kind of want to do something a little ridiculous. Oh, you should be careful about that. Let's encourage each other.
Right.
Let's be the type of friends that the first thing that comes out of our mouth isn't, hey, I want you to be careful. How about, yeah, man, have fun. Okay.
You know what's cool about being with your mindset and the age you are now, and it's same as me. When I have an idea of something I want to do, I'll go around and I'll talk to people and I'll get all the reasons why it's really stupid or why it shouldn't work or whatever. But I do analyze that, and I look for chinks in the plan, so that I can adapt the plan.
Yeah, you should be prudent. Yeah,
I mean, but for the most part, it's just like, knew you'd say that. You're so stupid.
Yeah. So I like to collect all those notes from those people so I have somewhere to put my garbage. I had to fill that garbage can because it's super nice because successful people have $130 garbage cans, which I never knew. But
it's so funny. Yeah, he said when I develop a property, I would actually take my dad because he would be conservative about this stuff, believe it or not. And he'd be like, I don't think that's a good idea, Mike. I'm like, man, the last 2 deals I made a killing. That was what you said. I just wanted to get to make sure that I'm on the right track here. This looks like another good deal. Looks like we have another winner.
And we're not, we're not reckless, but we need to walk right up to the line. Right. We need to be able to be like, oh shoot, we need to be just a notch back from stupid. And a notch back from reckless, and we need to use our God-gifting abilities and our hard work and the work ethic and everything else, all the tools in the toolbox. We need to use them to do things that are going to seem a little bit crazy. One of the things that I'm serious about is, so that's going to probably fall.
Nope.
Grab those. The size of this book. So this is About Face, biography of Colonel David Hackworth. It's crazy town. This is so good. It's amazing, dude. But it's not about the book. It's the size of the book. I want my life story to be this book, not a pamphlet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pamphlet dudes running around.
Yeah.
It's real safe though. Mine ain't going to be safe because you know what this book's full of? Because I've read About Face. It ain't all wins.
Yeah.
There's some setbacks in here, and there's some heartbreak in here, and there's some wins and some glory and some loss. And it's freaking thick.
Yeah.
I'm writing a thick book. not a pamphlet. And I want everyone listening to this to start thinking about how to write their thick book, because there's a lot of pamphlet people. And guess what? The pamphlet with, page 8, which is the next to the last page of the pamphlet, is my net worth statement.
Right.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a really riveting freaking story.
Yeah. I see your house appreciated like everybody else's for the last 30 years. And you built up the total
there you
of your
go.
net worth.
Nice.
Like,
Tell me, what risk did you take? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And don't we need to be, when especially men that are stewarding the lives of young people, don't we need to be encouraging them to get at it? And is safety the primary concern?
Right.
I'm sorry, but if safety is the primary concern, I think you're missing out on life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess the Cliff Note version of that has always been what I've always said is just that life's about the stories, and brother, I got them.
Yeah.
Brother, you got them. Brother, you got them. We've all took risks. We've all done things that everybody's like, why are you doing that? This is stupid. This is just and even if, and then we can all acknowledge in hindsight, like you said about some of the, we've all done things that were stupid. Great stories. They're amazing stories. We can sit.
I'm not
and tell
done doing
stories
stupid things, by the way.
We can
Make
tell
no
stories
mistake.
Newsflash.
If we just sat down, the three of us, and brought in a few other people and just told stupid stories, we could do podcasts for years.
That's the idea.
Our stupid stories.
You start thinking
But
of
it's
something.
hilarious.
Bring them in.
I'm not gonna lie. You're talking about try to think of a person that's stolen from you over the last year, and the first person I thought of was me. I was like, because I made a couple of decisions that I probably shouldn't have made at the turn of the year last year, that I'm in air quotes paying for, or just working out of, right? So doing stupid things, as long as you just keep doing things, is progress, is the enjoyment, is the fun.
Yeah, it is
it's part of the
we
fun.
have to make progress.
Jim, what do you consider to be your first entrepreneurial endeavor? Like the first time you decided, I'm going to be that entrepreneur and I'm going to do this thing.
So,
What do you remember?
I guess I'm not going to give an answer of like, well, I remember when I did lemonade stands,
Right. No, yeah.
So no,
It's things that you had in mind of that you could make more than a nickel.
So I really didn't have, I never thought myself worthy of being that guy until a handful of years after I even got into the marketplace and started selling cars. I always saw myself as, I'm always going to be working for the smart people and the people that have the money, and I'm going to just live my life and barely get by. I remember sitting in your living room telling people, and I was serious, I'll never drive a new car off a car lot. That's just stupid.
Yep.
No, that's not me.
And I'll never live in a house nicer than this. When you're renting a room from me, you're like, I'll
I
never
wouldn't
live in
say
a house.
renting.
Right? Well, sometimes.
Squatting.
Sometimes. Yeah. When you and all of your friends were squatting in my property.
Correct.
So I'm going to tell you one just quickly. You mentioned about to tell the stories, and I'm going to tell you first off, you're wrong, because you came to me one time with one of your very first entrepreneurial ideas that I'd like to share with you.
Tell me what it was.
You're going to be a band manager.
Oh,
That's right.
What if I could make $1 million?
Yes. Yes.
Bruce, you were there.
I was along for the ride.
I also got fired from that. So, interesting dynamic we have at the table is Bruce fired me.
And you resigned on me.
One
we got
20th of the
the
times
circle
that
of
Jim
life
fired
here.
me.
Jim told me, and he came to me and said, I need a raise. And the first time he came, and Jim was a great worker again back then. Now, obviously, you were at a different time of your life, and maybe you weren't reliable. Maybe you wouldn't have passed the drug test or whatever things you would use later on in life. But he came to me and he's like, I can insulate a home over there in this Cherry Hill subdivision. I'd do it by myself in 6 hours. I need more money. So I'm like, okay. So we went back and we'd watched an episode of Cheers that had where they couldn't afford raises, but they gave title raises. And I'm like, how about I give you a title raise? But I actually did also, I'll give you $1 an hour and I'll get you a pager. I'll get you business cards with the pager number and your new title. And I've given this some thought. I'm thinking regional director of labor. And he said, done immediately. I could have done no raise. I could have
So-
actually give the title on the pager. He comes back 6 months later and he says, I need another raise and I need a cell phone. And I said, well, Jim, I'm not in the cards right now. And he went off and he started
Selling
off in the
cars.
car business.
Yeah, I drove down to the car lot that I bought a vehicle from earlier that year and met a guy, and he hooked me up, and I started selling cars that next week.
He thought he had me because he could insulate a house over here in the Northwest Omaha in 6 hours. I thought I had him because he just took on a car payment.
Yeah.
I thought there was no chance I could tell him no, and he's not going to do a damn thing about it.
Right.
And
So-
I learned your integrity and quality of life then. You would not
said,
just, you
let's
did
go.
not bend
Not
a knee.
bending a knee,
You
man.
did not bend a knee, brother.
I'll tell you this.
And I respected you.
Thank you. That title, that regional director of labor, is still the best title I've ever had. Now, keeping in mind, I actually, on many businesses, have been CEO. President is a cool one.
Yep.
And I can tell you that, and I always had business cards, even though didn't give them out, for these other positions and stuff. And it was cool to have president and CEO on these cards and stuff. But it was never as cool as it could have been, because I knew from that day when you gave me that title, nothing's ever going to top this. So I would see my name on these corporate documents and stuff and see my business cards. It's like, I've arrived, I'm president, CEO. And I'm like, isn't that cool, Jim? I go, yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, not exactly regional director of labor, though, is it?
But at that time, you being able to, the people that you're associated with, being able to hand out that card and like, you can page me if you need to hit me up. Here's my card.
Yeah, I'm not being facetious.
Yeah, no,
when
I'm saying, no, I'm
that's
saying,
the
no, but I am
coolest-
saying,
Yeah.
I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying, that you're not being facetious,
Yeah.
but it still was really cool.
It was
Like,
amazing.
believe me,
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
I thought that out
Yeah.
and I thought, okay, this is really going to be a deal.
Yeah.
It was so cool that he worked that title into his other businesses and gave other people titles very similar.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
to be 21 years old, driving your K car, hop out and be able to hand out that card and be
That's
like,
right. Mo
"Here's my
Power
card,
Power, baby."
page me.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Yeah, I think we might have another one done here. What do you think?
All right, yeah, this is great.
Remember, now, Mike, I'm
Thanks,
looking
Mike.
at you again.
Mm-hmm.
If the show's providing you a fair exchange of time for value, I need you to share it.
Are you asking for pity money? Is this getting ready to get pity? Are we bringing up? Is this a?
Because
I would not.
again, I was very clear. If the show is providing you a fair exchange,
so it would not be a pity.
Correct. It's a fair exchange
All right.
of time for value.
Okay.
I would ask you to share it,
Okay.
review it, subscribe. What else, Bruce? Like it. It's
Please
important.
Comment.
Yeah, comments
Comment.
too.
Ask
And-
us questions
and
in the
on-
comments.
Yeah, and on YouTube especially is a good place for us to get comments, and I want to answer some questions and anything you want to comment on that we'll discuss. And
Right on.
And
so
Spotify,
yeah, all that.
anywhere where you watch it, if you comment on it, we're gonna get those aggregated, and we'll do our best to work them into the show.
We will not aggregate anything. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I do know.
I think it's a type of rock. Aggregate.
I do know that I self-fund this operation with the goal being impacting lives and helping as many as possible become the optimized versions of themselves. And the show's growth is in your hands. Please take your responsibility seriously. That's all we got.